Good morning and welcome to another video cast by Henley Consulting, the specialist management consulting firm to the $120 billion FPD display industry. And of this week, we've been focusing on industrial strategies that governments may take to support their display industries and the whole interplay between government support and competitiveness in the display industry. And today we want to talk about Taiwan and options for Taiwan, because they still are a very important part of the display industry, with AUO and Innolux being players number 5 and number 6 in terms of total revenue. But we want to talk, they definitely still have some capability, and so we want to talk about strategic options for the Taiwanese display industry. So as usual with these videos, we start again with our innovation ladder, which is just our way of plotting technology capability of all of the main players on this. And so it goes from level 1, which is essentially any company that has the capital, the engineering and the capability to buy LCD amorphous silicon equipment, can pretty much over a 5-year period get in and usually make a success out of this, as long as there's some technology donor and or group of engineers that will come from Japan or Taiwan to come help. So that is something that, with some support and some effort, you can get to being somewhat successful in amorphous silicon relatively easily. Levels 2 and 3 then are the same in OLED, and it's actually amazing over the last 10 years how much that's changed to where you can buy equipment for either glass or glass on polyimide OLED and pull off OLED, given say a 10-year capability of engineering building. It is possible, and the access to capital of in the billions, but it is capable. So those are levels 2 and 3, with Flex OLED being differentially more difficult than glass OLED. And then we get really to the top end of the leadership board, where we find at level 4 Sharp and JDI and technology capabilities, and I've given those as ideas of sort of oxide, polyoxide, inkjet printing, QDEL, a range of other sort of semi-innovative technologies. And then right at the top is the capability to create fundamentally new display ecosystems where the two Koreans live, so Samsung Display Corp and LG Display. Those are the only two really capable of that fundamental level of industry change. But let's talk about the Taiwanese players, and these are the ones here in dark blue. So AUO and Innolux. I call them the Taiwanese twins because at 30,000 feet they are incredibly similar. They both have about 30 million square meters of capacity, both have strong automotive businesses, both into micro LED, both into downstream businesses, both incredibly similar, frankly, both very good businesses at automotive, both pretty solid TFT players. So they're not actually true. They don't, as far as I know, have real serious deep capabilities at OLED. Neither of them have made those sort of size of investments, although both of them have played with OLED for the last 2 decades. And then finally, I wanted to add the other two that I think are important to discuss. Handstar, who I would place down at level 1, except that they're commercially and product very innovative. They tend to leak onto new trends in terms of product very quickly, and that's something they're very good at. And then E-Ink Holdings, which is fundamentally different to all these others. I've actually put them at level 2 to 3 because of their innovation capability in electrophoretics. Well, really, to be honest, they've created ecosystems. So they can you can probably argue the level of innovation that they bring is on the same sort of standard as somebody playing an OLED. It's just in a totally different direction, and is reflective technology, where they basically are a monopolist, or close on quasi-monopolist, but they're building quite a few ecosystems. So really quite an impressive company. So Taiwan then is about 15% of total industry capacity. Japan down at the bottom. Korea here is actually the blue, and actually is small on capacity, but then you should realise that that's a different mix. That's OLED capacity, which is substantially more valuable per square metre than the LCD. And then this big block of Chinese capacity, right? Most of that is LCD, most of that's low value, but that's China. That's come in over the last 10 years. So then really, if we talk about Taiwan, we can talk about more players on this, but the important ones are AUO, Innolux, and then E-Ink Holdings. And those are the ones I would say that I think are important and represent an innovation capability. AUO and Innolux both have pretty solid automotive businesses, strong understanding of device design for amorphous silicon, and then E-Ink Holdings is really a innovator in reflectives and the global leader in reflectives. So then what are the options for Taiwan as a whole? And I'm sure, I get the sense that the Taiwanese Ministry of Industry is all over this, because there has been some news releases in DigiTimes on some sort of governmental support. Now, the Taiwanese always complain it's not enough and not as much as China. That's probably true. But, there is a role, I believe, in governments supporting their industries to bring out the best in them, to be honest, and maintain their competitiveness. And so the first area of key strength, of course, is mini and micro LED, where Taiwan is almost preeminently positioned. Samsung Electronics is important for micro LED also, but Taiwan has got quite a lot to offer in that space, in a whole ecosystem of both wafer makers, through test equipment, through different, people coming out of LED test moving into micro LED. There's a whole supply chain of equipment and materials players that could be of value to Taiwan, and I think that's a really fascinating play. The other one that, of course, we have to give credit to is E-Ink Holdings, and they also remain important in Taiwan. Then, of course, they've tried to do, AUO has a fab across the strait in China. I wonder that the politics of that are simply too difficult in terms of supporting other Chinese companies to build factories where they provide technology. It's almost easier to give technology to India, as in the Vedanta deal on the right here, than it is to China. But then I really think that Taiwan should push itself to try and move up the technology ladder. They do have some capabilities at oxide, but I don't think it's world class. They have, AUO has a inkjet print pilot line, but I don't think they've ever moved that to mass production. I'm sure they've got work in other areas like QDEL, but they need to really step up to start threatening the four at the top, or the three at the top. The Koreans in particular. I think their technology prowess has been something. That sort of R&D spend is separate to capital spend, and then they need to then think about ways to monetize that afterwards. So Taiwan is a little bit different than the video I posted a couple of days ago on the roles of Japan. Japan is high-end technology and no capacity. Taiwan is mid-level technology and some capacity, but they have some real strengths in mini and micro LED in particular as a ecosystem. And then they have started down the path of tech transfer options, such as the deal between Innolux and Vedanta, and I'm really interested to see how that will play out. And I do wonder whether or not there should be more discussion on upskilling technologically in Taiwan, as opposed to just maintain the life of LCD, which I've heard as a conference mantra by the Taiwanese at times. And then, I think E-Ink Holdings, because they're not really challenged, will maintain their own leadership position in reflectives and broaden it with new applications. But I don't know that they necessarily need help with that, but we should recognise that role. So just as a final bit on Hendy Consulting, both for my LinkedIn audience and my YouTube audience, we're management consultants to the display industry, and we tend to answer a whole load of questions about whether the technology is any good, how would you set up a collaboration agreement with the industry, whether or you should build capacity, yes or no, and how to mitigate risk, and then basically how to improve competitiveness of your display business. So that's what we're concerned with, as differentially different to the simpler questions that you could get from buying market research. And to my YouTube audience, this is video 47 now. My fascination overall is with high-level corporate strategy thinking on the development of the $120 billion industry. I'm fascinated with competitiveness and with innovation. I'm fascinated by who's zooming who and changes in the industry structure, as well as materials and equipment development that's important, because I've done an awful lot of work for materials firms and equipment players, and they play an incredibly important role in the display industry. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and if you're interested, I have 46 other videos you can watch. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.